Dawn of Discovery. The void between stars shimmered as the UES Artemis dropped out of quantum space, its obsidian hull absorbing nearby starlight. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the main view screen as it adjusted to show their new surroundings. At nearly 2 kilometers long, the Artemis was humanity's crowning achievement in warship design, though few beyond Earth knew of its existence. Quantum transition complete, Captain. Lieutenant Sarah Chen reported from her station, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. All systems nominal. Maya nodded, but her attention was drawn to something else. Weapons fire in the distance. The Artemis's sensors were picking up a battle, and from the energy readings, it wasn't a small skirmish. Multiple vessels detected. Commander James Walker announced, his gravelly voice carrying across the bridge. We have 2 distinct groups. One appears to be civilian ships under attack from something else. He frowned at his readings. The attacking vessels don't match any known configurations in our database. Maya's jaw tightened. Humanity had spent the last century secretly observing the galaxy's civilizations, building their strength and technology while remaining hidden. They had chosen isolation, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. It seemed that moment had arrived sooner than expected. Life signs on the civilian vessels, she asked. Affirmative. Picking up approximately 12,000 individuals. Their ships are taking heavy damage. At current rate, their shields will fail within minutes. Maya straightened in her command chair. First contact protocols dictated non-interference, but she hadn't spent 15 years in command to watch innocents die. Battle stations. Deploy quantum shields. Lieutenant Chen, plot an intercept course. Commander Walker, prepare to engage the hostile vessels. The bridge erupted into activity as crimson alert lights bathed the crew in their glow. The Artemis's quantum engines hummed to life, propelling the massive warship toward the conflict. As they drew closer, Maya could see the civilian ships clearly now, elegant vessels with organic curves, their hulls gleaming with an iridescent sheen. Their attackers were the opposite. Angular, primitive-looking ships that moved with an unsettling mechanical precision. Enemy vessels are altering course, Walker reported. They're moving to engage us. Maya allowed herself a small smile. Let them come. Deploy the gravity lance. The Artemis' primary weapon, a closely guarded secret of human engineering, extended from the bow of the ship. It was a marvel of technology that could manipulate gravitational forces themselves, capable of tearing ships apart at the molecular level. Unknown vessels are charging weapons, Chen announced. Energy signatures suggest directed plasma weaponry. Primitive, Maya muttered. Send standard greeting protocols on all frequencies. Let's see if they're interested in talking. The response came in the form of plasma bolts that splashed harmlessly against the Artemis's quantum shields. Maya nodded to herself. Diplomacy was officially off the table. Target the lead vessel, she ordered. Minimal power. Let's show them what they're dealing with. The gravity lance pulsed once, sending out an invisible wave of distorted spacetime. The lead attacking ship shuddered, its hull crumpling like paper as localized gravitational forces pulled it in different directions simultaneously. Within seconds, it had been reduced to floating debris. The effect on the remaining attackers was immediate. They broke formation, attempting to retreat, but the Artemis' superior speed and technology made escape impossible. Within minutes, the threat had been neutralized without a single civilian casualty. Open a channel to the civilian vessels, Maya commanded. Let's introduce ourselves properly. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a humanoid alien with silvery skin and large expressive eyes. The being's surprise at seeing the human was evident. This is Captain Maya Rodriguez of the United Earth ship Artemis, Maya announced, keeping her voice calm and measured. Your ships are safe now. We offer assistance with any repairs or medical attention you may require. The alien stared for a moment before finding its voice. I am First Speaker Kelvin of the Keldari Federation. We are in your debt, Captain Rodriguez. But we had no knowledge of your species. How is this possible? Maya shared a knowing look with her crew before responding. That first speaker is a long story. One I believe your people should hear, along with a warning. The galaxy is changing, and humanity can remain hidden no longer. As the Artemis crews began assisting the Caldari ships, Maya knew that this encounter would change everything. Humanity's age of isolation was over. Whether the galaxy was ready for them or not, Earth could no longer stand by and watch from the shadows. The real question was, would the other spacefaring civilizations accept humanity's sudden emergence, or would this act of mercy spark a conflict that would reshape the galaxy forever? Maya had a feeling she'd find out soon enough. The Guardian's Gambit. News of the Artemis's intervention spread through the galaxy like a supernova. Within hours of the encounter, the Galactic Conclave, the closest thing to a unified government among the stars, called an emergency session. The great chamber on the neutral world of Helios buzzed with activity as representatives from 100 species debated humanity's sudden appearance. Captain Rodriguez stood in the center of the vast amphitheater, the holographic faces of countless alien delegates looming above her. First Speaker Kelvin of the Caldari stood beside her, his silver skin reflecting the chamber's ambient light. "These humans saved our people," Kelvin was saying, his melodic voice carrying across the chamber. "Without their intervention, 12,000 Caldari would have perished. And we're supposed to believe this was an act of pure altruism." The harsh voice belonged to Ambassador Vex of the Hegemony, a militaristic empire that controlled nearly a quarter of known space. His reptilian features twisted into what passed for a sneer among his kind. A species advanced enough to hide from our detection for centuries suddenly reveals itself to play hero. There must be an ulterior motive. Maya stepped forward, her voice steady. "There is." A murmur ran through the assembly. The vessels that attacked the Caldari weren't random pirates. They were scout ships for something far worse, the Nexus Swarm. The chamber erupted in chaos. The Nexus Swarm was a legend, a Boogeyman story used to frighten young aliens in their sleep cycles, a supposed army of self-replicating machines that consumed entire civilizations, incorporating their technology and knowledge into their collective. "Impossible," Vex roared. "The swarm is a myth." Maya gestured, and a hologram appeared above the chamber. It showed massive mechanical structures moving through deep space, each one larger than a small moon. "This footage was captured by our long-range quantum sensors 3 months ago. The swarm is real, and it's heading for this galaxy." The silence that followed was deafening. Maya continued, "Humanity didn't hide out of fear or malice. We hid because we needed time. Time to prepare, to advance our technology to a point where we might stand a chance against this threat." Another gesture and new holograms appeared. Massive orbital shipyards around Earth and its colonies, producing vessels that dwarfed even the Artemis. Quantum weapon platforms, gravity lance arrays, and defensive systems that defied conventional physics. "We've spent centuries preparing for this fight," Maya explained. "But we've come to realize that even with all our advancement, we can't win alone. The swarm adapts, learns, grows stronger with each civilization it consumes. It will take all of us, working together, to have any hope of survival." Ambassador Vex leaned forward, his earlier hostility tempered by curiosity. "If what you say is true, why reveal yourselves now? Why not continue hiding?" "Because the attack on the Caldari wasn't random," Maya replied. "Those weren't ordinary scout ships. They were swarm infiltrators, testing our region of space for weaknesses. The main body of the swarm will arrive sooner than we anticipated. We need to begin preparing now." The Galactic Conclave erupted into heated discussion. Some delegates called for immediate military alliance, while others demanded more proof. Through it all, Maya stood firm, her presence a reminder of humanity's strength and resolve. Finally, the High Chancellor of the Conclave, a being of pure energy contained within an ornate crystalline matrix, spoke. "Captain Rodriguez, your warning is grave indeed. But trust must be earned. How do we know humanity won't simply use this crisis to establish dominion over our civilizations? Maya smiled. Because right now, 12 Earth fleets are deploying across the galaxy, positioning themselves to defend key worlds and strategic points, not just human colonies, but the homeworlds of every spacefaring species. We're not asking for control. We're offering partnership. She paused, letting her words sink in. The swarm is coming. We can face it divided and fall one by one, or stand together and show them that this galaxy will not go quietly into the night. The chamber fell silent as the implications of her words settled over the assembly. The High Chancellor's energy form pulsed thoughtfully. You speak of partnership, yet you've already deployed your fleets without our consent. Some might see that as an act of aggression. Some might, Maya acknowledged. Others might see it as proof that we're committed to defending all sentient life, not just our own. The choice of how to interpret our actions is yours. But know this, whether you choose to stand with us or not, humanity will fight. We've seen what happens to galaxies that fall to the swarm. We won't let that happen here. As if to punctuate her words, new alerts began flooding into the chamber. Long-range sensors across the galaxy were detecting massive quantum disturbances, the signature of the swarm's approach. The High Chancellor's form flickered with what might have been concern. It seems, Captain Rodriguez, that we must make our choice quickly. The conclave will recess for 1 hour to discuss your revelations. I suggest you prepare your case for a more detailed alliance. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, First Speaker Kelvin turned to Maya. You knew this would happen, he said. The attack on our ships. You were waiting for something like this. Maya nodded. We needed the galaxy to see the threat firsthand. Words wouldn't have been enough. I'm sorry we had to use your people to make the point. Kelvin's large eyes studied her face. 12,000 of my people are alive because of that decision. Sometimes the most difficult choices are also the right ones. As Maya looked out over the now empty chamber, she couldn't help but wonder if the galaxy's species could overcome centuries of rivalry and suspicion in time to face the coming storm. The next few hours would determine whether humanity's great gambit would unite the galaxy or leave them standing alone against the greatest threat any of them had ever faced. The pieces were in place. Now it was time to see if the galaxy was ready to play the game. Alliance of necessity. The great shipyards above New Terra hummed with unprecedented activity. Alien vessels of every configuration moved alongside human warships, their crews working together to integrate technologies that had been separate for millennia. Captain Maya Rodriguez stood at the observation deck of the Strategic Command Center, watching as a Caldari cruiser received its new quantum shield array. Fascinating, Ambassador Vex muttered beside her. The hegemony leader had changed his tune considerably since the first confirmation of the swarm's approach. Your quantum manipulation technology is unlike anything we've encountered. Yet you say humans developed this independently, without access to the galactic archives. Maya nodded, hiding her amusement at his continued disbelief. Necessity breeds innovation, Ambassador. When you know a threat is coming but can't ask anyone for help, you learn to think differently. The massive form of a hegemony dreadnought moved past the window, its traditional plasma cannons being retrofitted with gravity lance technology. The integration of human and alien technology had not been without its challenges. Cultural differences ran deep, and centuries of isolation had left humanity with some unusual approaches to problem-solving. Commander Walker reports that the first joint training exercises are complete, Lieutenant Chen announced, approaching with a holographic report. The Caldari crews have adapted well to the new systems, but the hegemony forces are still struggling with the quantum targeting interfaces. Vex bristled slightly at this, but remained focused on the larger threat. My people are warriors, not scientists. We understand simple weapons. Point and shoot. Your technology requires a different mindset. That's exactly why we need each other, Maya replied. The swarm adapts to whatever it faces. Simple weapons, advanced technology. Alone, neither will be enough. But together, using strategies they've never encountered. She left the thought unfinished as new alerts flashed across the command center screens. Multiple quantum ruptures detected at the edge of charted space, Chen reported, her voice tense. The swarm's vanguard has arrived. The command center erupted into activity. Maya moved to the central tactical display, where a three-dimensional map showed the approaching threat. The swarm's ships were massive, ever-shifting constructs that defied conventional design. Some were clearly absorbed and twisted versions of vessels from civilizations they'd already consumed. How many? Vex demanded. Initial count shows 300 capital ships, with thousands of smaller vessels, Chen answered. They're moving faster than we anticipated, using some form of modified quantum drive we've never seen before. Maya's mind raced through the possibilities. The combined fleet wasn't ready. They needed more time for training, for integration of technologies. But time was a luxury they no longer had. They're targeting the outer colonies first, she observed, studying the swarm's approach vectors. Standard tactics. Test our defenses, learn our capabilities, adapt their strategies accordingly. Then we should deploy the fleet immediately. Vex insisted. Meet them head-on with everything we have. Maya shook her head. That's exactly what they expect. The swarm consumes knowledge along with technology. They'll have absorbed countless military traditions, including your people's tendency toward direct confrontation. She manipulated the tactical display, highlighting specific sectors. We need to think differently. Lieutenant Chen, contact all fleet commanders. Implementation of Protocol Omega begins now. Vex's scales shifted colors in confusion. Protocol Omega? What is this? Something we've been preparing for centuries, Maya replied. The swarm adapts to what it encounters, so we're going to show them something they've never seen before. A defense that changes faster than they can. Across the galaxy, human and alien ships began moving into seemingly random positions. Quantum shield frequencies shifted constantly, weapon configurations rearranged themselves, and fleet formations broke apart into smaller, more mobile groups. You're fragmenting our forces, Vex asked incredulously. This is madness. This is survival, Maya corrected him. The swarm expects us to fight like individual species, each with our own tactics and technologies. Instead, we're going to fight like something new, a true fusion of all our strengths and strategies. She turned to face the ambassador directly. Your people's warriors understand the importance of unpredictability in combat. Now imagine that unpredictability amplified by quantum technology, guided by Kildare intuition, and coordinated by human AI systems. Understanding began to dawn in Vex's reptilian eyes. You're not just combining our technologies, he realized. You're creating an entirely new way of warfare. Maya nodded. The swarm adapts to patterns, so we're going to show them that we have none. Every engagement will be different, every tactic unexpected. They'll never face the same combination of technologies or strategies twice. New alerts flashed across the screens. The first skirmishes had begun at the edge of space. Early reports showed the swarm struggling to counter attacks that seemed to defy logic and physics, their usual rapid adaptation failing against forces that never remained constant. It's working, Chen reported, a note of triumph in her voice. The swarm's first wave is falling back, regrouping. They've never encountered resistance like this. Maya allowed herself a small smile. This is just the beginning. Tell all commands. Proceed with Phase 2. It's time to show the swarm that they're not the only ones who can adapt. As orders went out across the combined fleet, Maya couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humanity had emerged from isolation not to conquer or dominate, but to unite the galaxy against an existential threat. And in doing so, they had created something entirely new, a coalition that was greater than the sum of its parts. The real test was still to come. The swarm would learn, would adapt, would return with new strategies. But for the first time since detecting their approach centuries ago, Maya felt real hope. The galaxy had come together, setting aside ancient rivalries to forge something unprecedented. The age of isolation was over. The age of unity had begun. Trial by fire. The swarm arrived in waves of twisted metal and corrupted biomatter. Their ships, each a grotesque fusion of stolen technologies, blotted out the stars above the Helios system. The combined fleet of humanity and their alien allies held position, their quantum shields creating a barrier of distorted space-time between their worlds and extinction. Captain Maya Rodriguez watched from the Artemis bridge as the enemy approached. All ships maintain quantum frequency rotation. Remember your training. We fight as one. The first shots came from the swarm, beams of dark energy that could tear through conventional shields. But the Allied ships' defenses shifted and adapted, the quantum barriers absorbing and redirecting the energy back into space. "They're prodding our defenses," Commander Walker observed, his hand steady on the tactical controls. "Multiple attack vectors forming." Maya nodded. "Execute pattern Delta. Caldari squadrons, begin your attack runs." Silver ships darted forward, their organic designs now enhanced with human quantum technology. They weaved through the swarm's formation with impossible grace, their gravity lances carving paths of destruction. The hegemony's dreadnoughts followed, their traditional weapons now synchronized with quantum targeting systems. The space between the fleets erupted into chaos. The swarm adapted quickly, their ships morphing to counter each new threat. But as soon as they developed a defense against one tactic, the Allied forces switched to another. Human quantum technology allowed ships to phase through solid matter, while Caldari sensor systems predicted enemy movements before they happened. "Multiple breaches in Sector 7, Lieutenant Chen reported. The swarms developed some kind of quantum-disrupting field." Maya's jaw tightened as she watched 3 Allied cruisers torn apart by the new weapon. "Signal the hegemony squadrons. Execute contingency Theta." Ambassador Vex, who had insisted on joining the battle, bared his teeth in a predatory grin. "My warriors are ready." The massive hegemony vessels charged forward, their hulls now shrouded in experimental quantum fields. As the swarm's weapons struck them, the ships seemed to splinter into multiple copies of themselves, a new technology born from the merger of human quantum science and hegemony battle tactics. But the swarm was learning, adapting. For every ship they lost, their surviving vessels incorporated the destroyed technology, becoming stronger. The battle began to shift, with more Allied ships falling to increasingly sophisticated attacks. "We're losing too many," Walker growled as another squadron vanished in a flash of quantum fire. "The swarm's adaptation rate is exceeding our projections." Maya studied the tactical display, her mind racing. The swarm's ships had formed into a massive spiral pattern, their movements becoming more coordinated. They were no longer just adapting. They were evolving their strategy in real time. "All ships, fall back to secondary positions," she ordered. "Prepare to execute Protocol Omega Final." Chen's eyes widened. "Captain, that protocol hasn't been tested. The energy requirements alone cooled. We're out of options." Maya cut her off. "Signal all ships, synchronize quantum cores on my mark." The Allied fleet pulled back, forming a spherical formation around the Artemis. The swarm pressed their advantage, their spiral pattern tightening like a noose around the defenders. "Quantum cores synchronized," Chen reported. "All ships reporting ready." Maya took a deep breath. Everything hinged on this moment. The culmination of centuries of human preparation and weeks of desperate cooperation between species. Execute Protocol Omega Final. Every ship in the Allied fleet activated their quantum cores simultaneously. The fabric of space-time itself buckled as thousands of quantum fields merged into one. For a moment, reality seemed to hold its breath. Then the universe cracked. The combined quantum field created a cascade of spatial anomalies, each one targeting the swarm's adaptive algorithms. Ships that tried to evolve found themselves trapped in probability loops, their changes undoing themselves faster than they could form. The swarm's spiral formation collapsed into chaos. Unable to adapt, unable to evolve, their ships began to fall one by one to the Allied fleet's coordinated attacks. But the victory came at a terrible cost. The quantum cascade had overwhelmed dozens of Allied ships, their cores burning out from the strain. The survivors were damaged, their crews exhausted from maintaining the complex quantum synchronization. As the last of the swarm's ships were destroyed or scattered, Maya slumped in her command chair. They had won their first major battle, but the war was far from over. "Signal all remaining ships," she ordered, her voice heavy with fatigue. "Begin rescue operations. I want damage reports from all squadrons within the hour." The stars slowly became visible again as the quantum distortions faded. The Allied fleet had held the line, but the cost had been steep. Nearly a third of their ships were destroyed or disabled, their crews lost to the void. Yet somehow, they had done it. They had proved that the swarm could be beaten, that adaptation could be overcome by innovation and unity. But Maya knew this was just the beginning. The swarm would return, and next time, they would be ready for Protocol Omega. The real question was, what would humanity and their allies develop next? The race between evolution and innovation had only just begun. Triumph of unity. The main swarm fleet arrived 3 days after the Battle of Helios. Not in hundreds, but in thousands, a vast cloud of corrupted ships that filled the long-range sensors with their signatures. The Allied forces had barely finished their repairs when the alert came. Maya stood in the Strategic Command Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the swarm's approach. Ambassador Vex and First Speaker Kelvin flanked her, their presence a testament to how far they'd come since that first encounter. "They've adapted to our quantum cascade strategy," Chen reported, highlighting tactical data. "Their ships are generating some kind of temporal stabilization field." "Then we show them our final card," Maya said, activating the secure channel to Earth. "Command, this is Rodriguez, requesting activation of Project Synthesis." The response came immediately. "Project Synthesis authorized." "Good hunting, Captain." Maya turned to her allies. "What you're about to see is why humanity really isolated itself, not just to develop technology, but to perfect something that could have destroyed us all if we'd gotten it wrong." The Artemis quantum core began to pulse with new energy. Throughout the Allied fleet, human ships activated hidden systems that had remained dormant until now. Space itself seemed to shiver as thousands of quantum fields synchronized in a way different from before. "By the void," Vex whispered. "What is this?" The answer came as reality itself transformed around them. The Allied fleet wasn't just coordinating, it was merging. Ships began to flow together, their quantum fields allowing matter itself to combine and reform. Human technology merged with Caldari organic systems and hegemony weapon arrays, creating something entirely new. Where once there had been a fleet of individual ships, now stood a single massive entity, part mechanical, part organic, all of it unified by quantum fields into something that had never existed before. "This is Project Synthesis," Maya explained as the transformation completed. "True unity, not just of technology, but of consciousness itself. Every crew member, every ship, every system, all connected through quantum entanglement into a single organism." The swarm advanced, their ships shifting to attack formation. But for the first time, they showed signs of hesitation. Their adaptive algorithms couldn't process what they were seeing. It defied everything they had encountered in countless galaxies. The battle that followed wasn't just a clash of weapons, but a struggle between two fundamentally different forms of evolution. The swarm adapted by consuming and corrupting. The Allied forces had transcended adaptation entirely, becoming something greater than the sum of their parts. Quantum weapons fired with perfect coordination. Organic systems predicted and countered every swarm movement. The unified consciousness of thousands of beings from dozens of species guided their combined form with impossible precision. The swarm threw everything they had against this new entity: dark energy beams, temporal weapons, corrupted technology from 100 fallen civilizations. But they couldn't adapt to something that changed not just its tactics or technology, but its fundamental nature from moment to moment. One by one, the swarm ships fell. Their attempts to consume and adapt the Allied technology backfired as the quantum entanglement spread through their systems like a virus, forcing them to confront something they had never known: true unity. Hours passed, and finally, the last swarm ship vanished into quantum space, retreating to whatever dark corner of the universe they had emerged from. The threat wasn't over. The swarm would return someday, with new adaptations and strategies. But the galaxy would be ready. The Allied forces separated back into individual ships, the quantum entanglement fading, but leaving behind a profound understanding between all who had experienced it. They had glimpsed something remarkable, not just victory over the swarm, but a new way of existence. Maya looked at her allies, Vex, Kelvin, and all the others who had trusted humanity enough to take this leap into the unknown. "This is what we were preparing for all those centuries," she said. "Not just weapons or shields, but the next step in evolution. Not through consumption or corruption, but through willing unity." The Galactic conclave would later mark this day as the beginning of a new age. Humanity had emerged from isolation not to conquer or dominate, but to show the galaxy a path forward. The age of separate species competing for resources and power was ending. Something new was beginning. An age of true cooperation, where the boundaries between species and civilizations began to blur. The swarm had sought to force unity through consumption. Humanity had shown that real unity could only come through choice and trust. As the Allied fleet made its way home, Maya knew that their victory had changed everything. The galaxy would never be the same. And somehow, that seemed exactly right.